Welcome to Jill's Nomad Survival. My name is Jill, and today is part 3 of my video series on nomad planning retirement, specifically for those of us who want to be able to move even if we want to keep our feet on the ground. Just seeing what life has to offer. In the last video, we talked about finances and cost of living. Today, I want to cover the other half of that, which is really wealth. We often think about that as wealth preservation and investment. And we're going to do something a little kind of radical. I'll explain it on the other side, but this one, it's about wealth. So I want to make a little caveat while we start here. This is August of 2017. Things are in a wild state of flux. And so no matter which version or scenario you sort of move our world forward in, things are a little bit unstable and there's lots of crises on the horizon. And so I'm really coming at this from the perspective of with every crisis also is opportunity. But I want to also say that everything, like all of us, these are always evolving ideas, they're always adaptive. My personal belief system is factored in here as opposed to just telling you what the market trends are. But I wanted to talk about this idea of wealth and investment because we're so focused on gold, cash, resources, things that we define wealth as something that we can hold that basically can keep us safe. And I really want to challenge that thought a little bit in this video. And so not only are we going to be looking at wealth, we're going to be looking at what is it that we're really talking about. And money is just a tool of the 3 real main forces of life, which are time, money, energy. And energy is really thought, feeling, and action. And so all of those are really something that we have to invest in if we want to get a return on our investment. And, if you are over 50, if you're planning your retirement, if you're nervous about your future, we all have every right to be. I lost everything. I have no future. I played by all the rules, house, 401k savings, all of it gone. So just because you plan for your retirement doesn't mean you're going to get the retirement you planned for. And the last statistic I heard that only 11% of baby boomers can expect to have their same level of lifestyle supported in their retirement years. They're just not going to have the money to support the existing way of life that they may have been experiencing, which is why a lot of people are looking at this nomadic life. So that's really why we're talking about it. But just to recap, so it's time, money, and energy. Energy is thought, feeling, and action. How can you create wealth around those things? And how can you do investment so that you get a positive return on your investment? And we're all very different. This is one of my big strains with the way the world is set up, is time is the currency that I value, not money. I don't want to invest my time in figuring out how to have a lot of money, but I also don't believe in a world and a society where we have to be focused on money all the time in order to have a good basic life. I feel like we're very unbalanced in that right now. I feel like that's some of what this reset is having to rethink. This last week, depending on where you're watching this, on the Road Report, I've talked about how do we create systems for our human design. And, the basis of money really is a tool. It's an exchange of energy. And we've come to attach that idea to power, to control, but mostly it's for safety and security. And if there's anything about this time in this world right now, it's insecurity about what the future holds. So the other idea, so one of the things I've been flirting with lately is there's life and then there's legacy. And part of moving to the post-50 life is we really are understanding, hopefully, that our life is now shortening. We are on the downhill slide in the shorter aspect of how much longer we have to live. How many good years is an even bigger question. And so this idea of legacy actually comes forward in terms of how we define that, whether it be a physical legacy, a legacy of our relationships, of our family, of our work, of what we did as an artist, whatever it is. There's lots of things that go into this legacy category. But you're going to hear me keep talking about this idea that I've been thinking a lot about. Not just save the world, but save the species. And what is going to be the legacy of humanity? And what part do we play in that? And one of the things I've noticed and come to understand is that we're not real aware about where we're actually investing our time and money, but there are forces in the world that are very committed, both short-term and long-term, heavily committed financially. And so part of where I feel like the shift is happening, and one of the reasons I keep talking about community too, is that we need to start thinking about, if we really want to change the world, if we really want to have a successful life all the way up into the end, sitting in your house with a lot of money and a good health care plan isn't really going to do it for most of us. We're not going to have either, probably. But we do have a way to contribute to the legacy of humanity, and that is with our time, our money, and our energy. It's how we think, it's how we feel, and it's how we act. And until we start expanding and investing in ways that create wealth separate from cash and gold, we're not going to really see any changes. Another thing that I think is really interesting is this idea of survival. And so many people are choosing this nomadic life as a way to survive because they won't have the money to live in the traditional way that we understood. But at the same time, we're facing huge amounts of uncertainty about just survival as a species and survival of the way of life as we have known it. And scaling back is one way to really handle or manage that in a different way. And when it comes to wealth and investment, we have to talk about, well, what do we actually own? And one of the things that I discovered is when you own things and they're not real expensive, you don't have to invest a lot of money into protecting that asset. And so, my takeaway has been, part of the value that I've gotten is time, but also health, in terms of getting back closer to a nature-based lifestyle. But also we can think about wealth in terms of skills and knowledge and the ability to design, the ability to be creative, the ability to participate, how useful we can be. Wealth is our health, because without our health, we're kind of useless and we're not going to be able to survive. And, most importantly, is in the shifting process is really, if things go cold, hunger is going to be the number one issue, and wealth will be enough to eat or even anything to eat. And when we start to look at wealth differently, I encourage you to start looking at wealth differently, that we can really think about how we would design a different way of living in our world. And, we look to the past to figure out what did or did not work. I'm not interested in recreating the past, because that's what got us here. We have new problems, new issues, new ideas, new things to factor in. Life in itself is a movement forward. And wealth and money and time and energy, those are all our tools of investment. So when I talk about wealth in your post-50 life, I'm really talking about expanding it beyond the ideas of money and gold. Because when you hoard money, you're actually just hoarding your energy. That, the energy of money is meant to be in movement. That's not, and some people are just really good at making money. And I've always said, the people who are really good at making money should be funding a lot of these processes that will move our society forward, because that is their skill base, where other people aren't good at making money, but that doesn't mean we don't have contributions. So I'm just offering this as a new way to think about wealth, because most people who are moving into this lifestyle don't have a lot of monetary resources, but it doesn't mean you can't have a wealthy life. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining me here at Jill's Nomad Survival, and we'll see you next time.